Imagine for a moment that the story we've been told about conquering the moon is just a facade. What if the giant leap for mankind wasn't a victory, but a first contact that forced us to retreat? Why, after achieving the unattainable 6 times in such a short period, did humanity simply abandon the moon, as if banished from forbidden territory? The Apollo missions were fraught with danger, yes, but also with inexplicable events, muffled whispers, and a subsequent silence that screams louder than any rocket. Prepare to unravel the unsettling possibility that we weren't the only ones to look at the moon, and that perhaps it was never meant for us to conquer. From the earliest times, the moon has been a mirror for the human imagination, an object of adoration, fear, and speculation. But what if our fascination with it wasn't one-sided? What if, while we looked up, something up there was also watching us? The Apollo missions, celebrated as the pinnacle of human ingenuity, may have actually been an incursion into territory that was already occupied, or at least under surveillance. This video will delve not only into the technical dangers and miracles of survival, but also into the anomalous events, strange accounts, and subtle clues that have been swept under the rug of official history. We will explore the possibility that the space race wasn't just against the Soviet Union, but against a truth that humanity wasn't prepared to face. Prepare to question the very nature of our exploration and the real reason why, after a brief and intense period of visits, the moon became a place where humans are seemingly no longer welcome. The official narrative of Apollo 11 is one of a triumph of engineering and human courage. However, declassified files and testimonies from some involved paint a more complex picture. The Apollo 11 landing wasn't just a hair's breadth due to a navigational error. There are persistent accounts that astronauts Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin observed unidentified objects during their descent and on the lunar surface. The famous 33-second communication problem during the live broadcast of the landing, officially attributed to a camera malfunction, is seen by many as a moment of deliberate censorship. What was said or seen in those crucial seconds that NASA didn't want the world to hear or see? The idea that humanity's first contact with the moon was, in fact, contact with something that was already there, casts a shadow over the glory of that moment. Apollo 12, the second manned mission, was supposed to prove that NASA could land with precision. But, as we've already explored, the mission was marked by bizarre events from the start. The lightning strikes that hit the Saturn V during liftoff, plunging the spacecraft into electrical chaos. Could they have been more than just a meteorological accident? In a universe where coincidence is rare, the idea that external, perhaps unnatural forces attempted to thwart the mission is a disturbing possibility. And what about Alan Bean's destruction of the color camera, an accident that deprived the world of clear images of the lunar surface? Was it merely human error, or a subtle intervention to keep certain aspects of the moon out of public scrutiny? But the most intriguing aspect of Apollo 12 was the seismic experiment. After the intentional impact of the lunar module on the surface, the moon rang like a bell for almost an hour. Scientists were shocked, and the official explanation was that the moon was drier and more rigid than previously thought. However, the persistence of this reverberation led to more radical theories, that the moon is hollow or that it possesses an artificial internal structure. If the moon is hollow, what or who built it? And if it is an artificial structure, what does it hide inside? This discovery, which should have revolutionized our understanding of our satellite, was quickly downplayed, as if the implication of an unnatural moon was something to be avoided at all costs. Apollo 13 is a unique chapter in space history, a stark reminder of humanity's fragility in the face of the cosmos. But what if the oxygen tank explosion wasn't merely an electrical accident, but a deliberate act? Theories suggest Apollo 13 was sabotaged, or that the failure was an intervention to prevent the crew from reaching a specific location or making an undesirable discovery. The phrase, "Houston, we've had a problem," may have been the beginning of a fight for survival, but also a sign that humanity had crossed an invisible line. The ingenuity that saved the crew is undeniable, but the question remains, why was this particular mission so unlucky? Was it a warning? Following the trauma of Apollo 13, Apollo 14, led by Alan Shepard, attempted to restore confidence. But again, the mission was marked by a series of near misses. The failure of the docking mechanism, which almost resulted in the mission's abort, was overcome by Shepard's manual skill. But why so many critical failures in such crucial missions? Were they mere technical problems, or a series of warnings to humanity not to delve too deeply into the secrets of the moon? Shepard's famous golf game, a moment of levity, may have been a necessary distraction, a way to divert public attention from something more serious that was happening. The Apollo 15, 16, and 17 missions, while scientifically more advanced, also carry their own mysteries. Apollo 15, with its lunar rover, allowed for unprecedented exploration. But what did the astronauts actually see and couldn't openly report? The accounts of lights and unexplained phenomena on the lunar surface and in orbit are not mere anecdotes. They are part of a pattern of observations that have been systematically minimized or ignored by the official narrative. The Genesis rock, a 4 billion-year-old fragment, may be a key piece in understanding the origin of the moon, but what if it also contains information that challenges our understanding of life and the universe? Apollo 16, exploring the lunar highlands, discovered that the landscape was not volcanic but sculpted by asteroid impacts. However, the astronauts' account of the lunar dust, with its smell of burnt gunpowder and oily feel, is a sensory detail that connects us directly to their experience, but also raises questions about the composition and properties of this dust. Was it just dust or something more organic, or even residue from some unknown activity? Apollo 17, the last mission, with geologist Harrison Jack Schmitt, discovered orange soil, tiny spheres of volcanic glass. But what else might Schmitt, a scientist trained to observe and analyze, have noticed that wasn't disclosed? The silence that followed Eugene Cernan's final step is not just the end of a program. It is the beginning of an enigma that suggests humanity may have been subtly, or not so subtly, dissuaded from continuing its lunar exploration. The final Apollo missions, 15 through 17, were the most ambitious in terms of exploration and data collection. However, it is precisely during this period that the most intriguing reports and the most difficult to explain anomalies emerged. Apollo 15 allowed astronauts to explore vast mountainous areas. But what did they find beyond the Genesis rock? There are accounts that astronauts observed unusual geometric structures, moving lights and even formations that appeared to be ancient ruins. These reports, often attributed to fatigue or illusion, are too persistent to be simply dismissed. Could it be that NASA was aware of these anomalies and downplayed them to avoid public panic or questioning? Apollo 16, while exploring the lunar highlands, discovered that the landscape had been sculpted by colossal asteroid impacts. But what if these impacts weren't random? What if the moon, like a shield, was protecting Earth from something much larger, and the scars on its surface were evidence of an ancient cosmic battle? The astronauts' accounts of lunar dust, with its smell of burnt gunpowder and oily feel, take on a new dimension in this context. Could the dust be a residue of some kind of conflict or unknown technology? The idea that the moon is a living or active celestial body in a way we don't understand, and that it interacts with the space around it, is a possibility that official science is reluctant to accept. Apollo 17, the last mission, with geologist Harrison Jack Schmitt, brought to light the discovery of orange soil. Although officially explained as volcanic glass spheres, the unusual color and composition raise the question, what else is hidden beneath the lunar surface? What if this orange soil is a byproduct of geological or technological activity that doesn't fit our current models? The fact that Apollo 17 was the last manned mission, despite its scientific and technological success, is one of the greatest enigmas. Commander Eugene Cernan, the last person to set foot on the moon, left a message of hope for the future. But what did he really feel or know in that final moment? The silence that followed is not just the end of a program, but the beginning of a theory. That humanity was subtly, or not so subtly, informed that the moon was not a place for us, at least not yet. We've arrived at the heart of the question that haunts space exploration. Why did humanity, after 6 successful landings in just 3 years, with technology advancing and the ability to reach the moon proven, simply stop? The official narrative of budget cuts and loss of public interest seems increasingly hollow in the face of the magnitude of the achievement and the mystery that followed. What if the real reason for abandoning the moon wasn't our decision, but an imposition? Consider the warnings that permeate the missions: the lightning strikes on Apollo 12, the explosion on Apollo 13, the unexplained malfunctions at critical moments. Consider the anomalous phenomena: the moon ringing like a bell, the dust smelling of gunpowder, the persistent reports of unusual lights and structures. What if all of this wasn't mere coincidence or technical failures, but clear signs that the moon already had its guardians? The unsettling possibility is that the Apollo missions were not merely exploration, but an intrusion into territory that did not belong to us, an outpost of a non-human intelligence observing our progress. Perhaps the silence of more than half a century is not a sign of surrender, but of obedience to a veiled order. An order not to return, not to disturb what resides there. What did the astronauts actually see or experience that led them to such a profound and lasting silence? Was it technology so advanced that it defied our understanding? A way of life that didn't fit into our paradigms? Or perhaps a clear and unequivocal message that the moon is a frontier that humanity should not cross, at least not without permission? Eugene Cernan's last step on the moon may not have been a farewell, but a strategic retreat, an acknowledgement that there are forces in the universe far beyond our control, and that the moon, our closest neighbor, is a silent witness to a truth that NASA and governments have preferred to keep hidden. The moon is not just a satellite, it is a secret. The official story tells us that humanity conquered the moon and then, for prosaic reasons, simply stopped going. But as we explore in this video, there's an underlying narrative, an echo of unexplained events and a deafening silence that suggests something much deeper. The Apollo missions may have been more than a space race. They may have been a first and last contact, a veiled warning that the moon is not a playground for humanity. What do you believe? That we were the only ones to set foot there, or that there's something more, something that made us retreat? The moon continues to orbit the Earth, a silent guardian of untold secrets. What did the astronauts really see? What were they instructed not to say? And most importantly, what awaits us if we dare to ignore the warning and attempt to return? The truth may be stranger and more disturbing than any fiction. If you, like us, feel compelled to unravel these mysteries and explore the depths of the unknown, then this is the place for you. Don't accept the official story as the only truth. If this exploration of the hidden side of the Apollo missions has sparked your curiosity and made you question things, like this video so that more people can access these reflections. Share it with those who also dare to look at the stars and ask, what if? And to not miss any of our upcoming investigations into the enigmas that shape our world and beyond, subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell. Your participation is fundamental for us to continue bringing to light the stories that time has tried to erase. Leave a comment with your theory about the real reason for the lunar abandonment. We really want to read what you think.